Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hilariously Unemployed. I'm your host and your favorite opportunity seeker, Dana Duckworth, aka the Big Speaker. I still don't have a soundboard, so if y'all want to donate one, you know where to find me. I'm excited to be back here with you all, telling yet another layoff story, career pivot, how I got my start, what I'm into now, how I have figured out this career landscape journey story, right? Because this show has evolved into so much more than just telling those stories about layoff and transition. It's really become a community where we are sharing our corporate nightmares and laughing at them. We're also sharing inspiration, motivation, and things that have helped us as we've navigated any type of pause in our life, really, any type of pause in our career and changes that have led us to where we are today. Before we get started, I do want to talk about what's going on in our nation with layoffs. Yeah, they are still happening and happening in massive amounts of numbers. Microsoft recently announced they're laying off 10,000 workers. That is huge. 10,000 workers from Microsoft. The writing is on the wall. We're seeing a lot of that start to happen in the tech space. And a lot of it is, of course, attributed to what they said it wouldn't be AI. What I think is going to happen is there will be some layoffs, right? There is always this kind of transition when there's something new in the market or something new in the field, and they kind of put all hands on deck on that project. They figure out what it is, and then they figure out they need people to do the thing, right? So they overstaffed and understaffed, and then hopefully come back and get it right with the right amount of staffing to do the things, because no matter how good your AI, you still need the people. There has to be humanity in all of this artificial intelligence. Another shocking statistic is that the USDA, since this was reported as of May the 3rd of this year, 11,000 employees in the USDA. We also saw in the news last week that the Department of Education was going to start seeing layoffs. So brace yourselves. The show is here for you. If you are one of those people who has been impacted, you know someone who's been impacted, please share the show with them. Share the opportunity to come and listen to other people's stories and how they've gotten through it. And also share the opportunity for them to laugh, because like if we're not laughing, we're not living. That is my philosophy. And also, if they're looking for a platform to tell their story, a better one than this one, right? All right. Speaking of telling stories, I am so excited to welcome my next guest that is here to tell a very riveting story. I found it to be, I laughed several times in our discovery call. Who's going to tell her story about the many pivots in her career that she's had. I want to welcome to the show, and please say hello to the hilarious Jenna Hassenkamp. Jenna,
Hi,
welcome.
Tina. Hi, Hilariously Unemployed crew.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here and to talk with you. I'm feeling very good. It's summer. It's beautiful out.
Okay, so we're starting with no tears. That's awesome. That's a good start to a show about unemployment. Like we do on every episode, let's kick it off with the burning question. How long have you been hilariously unemployed?
I am very fresh off of this. I quit my job, and my last day was Thursday, and we're recording this on Tuesday. So it is very new, very fresh, and feeling like a lot of space right now.
We got a quitter, y'all. Fresh meat. Wow. Thursday, and here we are recording on Tuesday. Just so you all know, audience, I knew that this was coming, and we've been waiting to do her episode until she was no longer employed, because, it's on brand for us. Before we get into your recent departure and why we're celebrating the fact that you're a quitter, take us back to your career story. Like, where did you start off your professional, your corporate career, and kind of how that's evolved for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am from a very rural, small town in Vermont. A lot of blue collar. My parents didn't go to college, so a lot of my career was kind of fumbling my way through, not exactly knowing what I was doing, but doing some bailing upwards, which was helpful.
Mhm.
So I went to Dartmouth, and I graduated with a lot of college debt, which was a fun surprise. I mean, not obviously I signed the contracts, but when you're 18, signing those, like it is a
Yeah.
very different reality to when you
Mhm.
are 22 and you have no job and they're like, by the way, you owe us like $40,000. You're going to, that starts being due in December, which was really cute too. Of like, by the way,
Yeah.
your Christmas present is you will start paying loan payments. So I moved to San Francisco with my boyfriend at the time, now husband. I got a job as a receptionist. I laughed at myself through my reception job because all of my classmates were like being like iBankers, graduate school, all these things. And I'm like answering the phone, which was fine. There's nothing wrong with answering the phone. I think everyone should have to answer the phone or do
Oh
office
my
assistant in
goodness.
some way because it makes you less of an asshole, I think.
It definitely does.
Because I definitely worked with a lot of people who had never done that.
Mhm.
So I ended up going into advertising, not with any intention other than it seemed fun. There was advertising in San Francisco. I got a front desk job. I worked my way into it. And then I stuck with that for about 15 years until I made a pivot into product management 3 years ago. So done a lot of creative agencies, worked with fun brands, did a lot of crazy hours, and yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Okay, let's unpack it. So, what was your employee discount at Macy's?
Yeah, so I quit my job in 2009 when
Mhm.
I was working at a packaging design agency in San Francisco.
Mhm.
I left to go what I thought was 2 months, where we were my husband and I were traveling after he graduated law school. He had a job when he got back. I
Mhm.
knew I needed a change of pace from my job, so I came back thinking that I would get a job, and then the 2009 crash happened. The Bay Area was an especially brutal place to be during the 2009 crash. I got to go
Mhm.
through the really fun process of being overqualified for jobs that I was interviewing for, which
Yeah.
is incredibly frustrating when you have bills to pay and you're like, that's fine. I'm comfortable with being overqualified. That's a nice place to be if I can get a paycheck. So I ended up going to Macy's and I got a holiday job for a couple months. And it was very hard for me because I worked in fashion jewelry. So like I had all like the Betsy Johnson and stuff, and I had to like a lot of self control. I have one ring that I bought myself like during that time because obviously I needed to pay bills, save money, and not be spending it on a bunch of fashion jewelry. But I do have one ring that I still have
Mhm.
that was my gift to myself during that time. But it was fun. Like I worked with a lot of like fun fun people. Like I said, it was working in stuff that I thought was cool. I had a lot of experience like working retail, getting paid hourly. So it wasn't like anything like too different. It was just that I knew I wanted to go back to my career in advertising
Mhm.
and was just kind of figuring out how to do that when there was like no one hiring anywhere other than like Macy's for all the holidays.
Yeah. Okay. So you have that family heirloom of a Betsy Johnson ring now. Great.
I actually think it's a fossil. You're like the fossil watches. I think the ring is like a fossil one. So I have like a 14-year-old mall girl ring that I will treasure forever.
All right. So you were working at Macy's 2009. San Francisco is much different from what we know today, which is kind of getting to a reminiscent place. Not quite 2009, but there are those massive changes and massive swings that are happening there. But not the San Francisco that we knew a couple years ago, where everything was bustling and this new business, that new business, adding this headcount. Um, so a much different San Francisco. When you look at the landscape now there, what are your thoughts? And do you feel 2009-ish about what's happening now?
We went back to San Francisco last year and we'd heard all of like the like, oh my God, San Francisco is a mess. Downtown's a
Mhm.
gold town. Like it's so like bad now.
Mhm.
I was like, have these people been to San Francisco before? Like I thought like downtown was like cleaner and like nicer than it had been in many years. Like I was living there during the Take Back Wall Street or whatever that was, where they
Okay.
had like massive encampments everywhere. And I was just like,
Mhm.
like not to downplay like what people in San Francisco have gone through with like the different recession, not recession things
Right.
going on. But San Francisco's great. Go visit it. It's fine. It's lovely. Like, it's, I think, very overblown with like it's gotten seedy or bad or anything like that. I have an aunt that's lived there. I have family that's lived out there for a long time. They actually moved from New York to San Francisco, and one of them put it in a really good way for me when we were leaving San Francisco. And I was like, oh, it's changed so much. There's tech bros everywhere. Facebook's here, Twitter, like it's
Yeah.
all like different. And she was like, San Francisco is a gold rush town. Like the culture of San Francisco is it is constantly changing, it's constantly
Mhm.
innovating, and like the people are constantly kind of cycling through because of that. And it really changed my perspective of like being salty about San Francisco then versus now, and really accepting like that is who San Francisco is.
Yeah, it definitely that makes sense. That does put it in perspective. I haven't been to San Fran in like 2.5, 3 years. And when I talk to my friends, they're like, oh, it's like Gotham now. I'm like, girl, it's not Gotham. It already had those vibes at some point. It's like, it can't be worse. But they're like, yeah, so many things have closed. So many of our favorite things are now closed, restaurants and shops and all of these things. And I honestly think that that's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
That's retail is not doing well anywhere. Restaurants are having a very hard time. Everything is expensive. San Francisco was already expensive. So, you just compound those things together. And it is going to be different for people who lived in the times where it was lesser so. But I really enjoy that city. And then once I figured out how small it was, I was like, this is what people are talking about, these 20 blocks.
Yeah, 7 by 7. It's great. Like it's super walkable, and like if New York is not your thing because it's just a little too big, too much city, like San Francisco is a great second choice.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so we're moving forward from 2009, your Macy's role, and then you want to go back into what your passion was at the time, ad agency, product advertising. So tell me how you got back into that. Was it just applying and finding the job, or did you have connections?
It eventually connections helped, but I started temping, and I think I probably, like a lot of people listening to this, I have probably submitted my resume throughout my career hundreds of times at this point. Some of those resumes were very bad, but like just so many times. I was always hustling. Like I wasn't trying to be precious about what job I did. If it looked
Mhm.
interesting, if it looked related, then I was going to go for it. It was just very hard to break into it because even with like I had a Dartmouth degree, I had no idea how to really leverage or network that. Like I said, like I came from rural Vermont. My dad's a plumber. Like my mom stayed home. Like I did
Mhm.
not know how to network in a business setting or like use that. I was just like this like fresh face like Vermont girl that I was like, I don't know, here's my resume. Please hire me.
Yeah.
But I temped at a couple of places. I got to be at Cost Plus World Market for a month, which was like really fun and
Okay.
interesting. And then I ended up at a tech education company, which is ironic because that's actually where I spent the last 3 years. Is another one, but I was production assistant there. They had like a bit of a toxic vibe. They were starting to talk about hiring me, but like they were also like I was told by one woman there that I like needed to talk less basically and like just sit in the corner and let them do their thing. So I was like, this is not a good fit. But I had a friend of a friend working at an ad agency, AKQA, and
Mhm.
he put in a good word for me. And I took a job that was definitely a step down from my experience, but it
Mhm.
got me in the door. And I got to work on like Nike Women and Gap and all these really cool brands.
Mhm.
So it was great for the network I was able to create from that and experience. It, however, did really teach me that when you take a step down to get
Mhm.
in,
Mhm.
it's very hard to recover that. And
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like everyone sells this idea of like, oh, you'll move up quickly because you have the experience. They are, and it may be women versus men too. They are very happy to pay you less to
Yep.
do more. So I that was definitely a chip on my shoulder through that job was like that I felt like I was constantly trying to catch up to where the work quality that I was doing versus the title and the salary that I had. Fortunately, the next job I took was great. Like they recognized where I was at. I didn't have to fight for promotions. That one actually taught me what it's like to work somewhere and be valued, which was a great experience and lesson.
Okay, so tell me, what exactly is tech education?
Okay, so ed tech is basically your kids on computers. That's what we're doing. So it was a huge boom during COVID, but it means a lot of different things. It is actually like coursework and curriculum.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like quiz assessment tools. A lot of us use those at our regular jobs, like
Right.
Quizzies and stuff. Like people are Kahoot. That was a big one that like people were just using at their corporate jobs. That's actually an ed tech tool. So it's basically creating these content tools, whatever this administration wants to help teachers and schools have more at their disposal than the regular like what we grew up with like textbooks.
Mhm.
For me, I really think it has a ton of potential. Like there's a lot, everything has a good side and a bad side. For me,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I'm really passionate about it is because I grew up in a really rural school. My high school and middle school are closed now. They absolutely should be. And like I like the fact that you can have access to these kind of materials to kind of offset like when you, especially in your rural place, when you are in certain city schools that don't have funding, you don't get to necessarily have the greatest teachers. You
Yeah.
have who you have, and you one of the things that can help offset that is having really good curriculum, at least really good things that you can kind of like self path, especially when you're in high school. And that's one of the things I think that like ed tech opens up. I don't know if we've really done a great job yet getting there, but when I used to talk to friends in college about like how we fix the educational system, because that's what you do as an undergrad, you're going to solve that big problem.
Mhm.
um, we would always stall out because it's like, how do you fix the problems in an inner city school, a suburb school, and a rural school? They don't all have the same solution because they have different problems. They have a lot of problems in common, but there's also different challenges in that are unique to those locations. And that was one of the things I thought was cool about ed tech is like it can improve all three of those. Doesn't fix a lot of the systemic issues that still need to be resolved, but it can help improve those, which was, I think, really cool. And one of the reasons I'm passionate about it.
Awesome. All right, y'all. We just got an education on ed tech. I had no clue that that was another sector of tech that we could be thinking about, but that makes sense. Yes, I'm sure COVID saw a huge boom with all of the Zooms and the Kahoots and whatnot and the Quizits and everything. Thank you for that education. So that workplace was toxic, crazy education, toxic. Who knew? So then we decided to pivot again. Did you quit that job? Did that job quit you? What happened?
So they were getting ready to offer me a full-time position because that was when I was contracting at, and
Mhm.
I had gotten pretty far along in the interview for AKQA with the connection I had introduced me. So that was where I took the role that was a step down because it got me back into the job of
Right.
advertising, which I wanted to do. So, and especially having so many doors closed and the like, that position went on hold. You're overqualified through the 2009 crash. I was like, you know what? Like, if I can just show that I'm actually working in advertising, that'll help like get me
Yeah.
going at least versus like continuing to contract hustle, like whatever else I need to like pay the bills.
Hmm. So we're back in ads, and well, you're in a lower role, not receiving the pay that you clearly deserve, and also not having the opportunities to be promoted because you're already doing a good job where you are. What happens from that space? I mean, granted, you had some great opportunities working with Nike and Gap, but what was the ending of that saga in your life?
There was a lot of change where I ended up working a lot of teams, which is not unusual in ad agencies, but it just gets a bit disruptive in being able to get a rhythm to like have to keep learning new teams, new clients. It's stressful. So I was looking to find something that was a smaller agency. AKQA was also a huge global network, and I was like, you know what, I
Mhm.
want to get out of corporate advertising kind of vibe and more into something that's a little more local. And I also it was digital advertising, and I was seeing how digital in advertising usually the money goes to TV. So like whoever controls the TV gets the big creative budget, and then digital is usually like, okay, this is the idea, this is what you need to do, figure out how to make it digital.
Yeah.
With some exceptions. But so I ended up going to a local agency called Butler Stern Shine and Partners in Sausalito, right outside San Francisco. And they had come from like one of the most well-known ad agencies in, I don't know, the world. Could be Silverstein Partners for those who actually pay attention to advertising. And they did it all. So they did TV, print, out of home, and digital. So I got to actually learn more. And I realized, looking back, you'll see there's a theme. Every time I switched jobs, there was a pretty big change in what I was doing and who I was working on, which took me a long time to notice about myself, but I was doing it subconsciously. So I started working there. I got hired to a higher role, which I've been struggling at my current job. While I was there, I also got promoted without having to like push for it. Like they came to me, and like I said, like that was just, it was a really good lesson in like what a job will do when they value you. Like if you are constantly having to fight for yourself to get resources, pay, or promotion, you're not valued. Like they don't like ignore you, like retention, if they value you. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you. A lot of the time it's not personal. There's other stuff going on in the business, especially the size of the company. Like it just depends. But all that being said, you should try to aim to work for someone or for some place that values you. And part of that is them advocating for you and creating like the paths to honestly getting more money, because that's how we all function usually, or like more responsibility, autonomy, all those good things. Whatever's important to you that you are working towards.
Yeah.
If your manager or company is not supporting that and recognizing that, then it's probably not like a great fit for you.
Awesome. So now you're in a role that aligns with you. You feel good. They value you. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. What next?
Yeah. So my husband and I gotten married in the mix of those two agencies. And we had the long-term plan of moving to New Orleans, where he was from and his family was. And those familiar with San Francisco, it's not a big kid-friendly city.
Correct.
Working in advertising, I really saw a lot of people tend to have kids much older there. They also tend to either have full-time care or one of them stays home. And the one in the advertising side, the ones that were working with me were not seeing their kids. And I was just like, that's not how I want to do parenting. So we were planning on moving to New Orleans to start a family, be closer to his, kind of get out of the San Francisco rat race. So we quit our jobs, sold our stuff, packed up.
We got another quitter, y'all.
Yeah, it's a theme. We went to Thailand for a month, which was like unbelievably amazing. And then we road tripped to Vermont from San Francisco. He spent that time studying for the Louisiana bar. He's a lawyer. I spent the time driving and listening to CDs. I don't know that we had like Pandora hooked up then. And national parks. We got to Vermont, and that's when I was supposed to start applying for jobs. We were gonna like start planning for a family. He was taking the bar. And I turned 30, and then it turned out I had breast cancer. So that was a little bit of a left turn on that one.
Well, that will put a pause in your plans for certain.
Yeah, that was supposed to be, I don't know, like a 3 to 4 month gap was the plan of like quitting job, traveling, moving to New Orleans, starting again. And it ended up being for me about a year. Of like going through, and I started treatment in Vermont, and we moved down to New Orleans halfway through that, because it was really tough to be on the cusp of so many things. You know, we'd been planning to move to New Orleans for years. Like we'd been, like I said, excited to have kids. Like we had all these things, and then completely out of control. It was just like, sorry, this other thing is happening that you have no control over, that is going to completely
Mhm.
disrupt all of your plans, all of your life, maybe your life, like all, and
Yeah.
that was one of the few things that I could have control over, was like, no, we're still going to move. And I transferred actually, like, from taking one chemo to the next. I transferred in the middle. We had a very strict schedule to get down there in time. I ended up with a great set of doctors down there. It ended up being an amazing transition.
Mhm.
And we went from staying with my parents in Vermont to being very close to his. So we had family support too. But yeah, that was, we talked about this for my like two times I've left my job. I had the 2009 crash, the first one,
Mhm.
got
Mhm.
cancer the second one. I'm really hoping this is third time's the charm.
I am hoping that there are no bumps along the road. You navigate this new season of quitting. How did you find out about your cancer?
Found a lump and then started doing like checking it out, and it was pretty brutal because I was 30, so that's a rough time to have that happen
Mhm.
anyways. But I had family history, and I'd actually done testing for the BRCA gene before that happened, like not long before actually, it was negative. So like
Mhm.
every time I went in for an appointment, they're like, it's probably not cancer. It's not going to be cancer. Like it's very unlikely to be cancer. And then each appointment, they get a little more like maybe. And then they're like, I remember
Mhm.
the call. The woman was like, she's like, it's cancer. And I just like didn't say. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, oh, so you were expecting that? I was like, no, I'm not expecting that.
I'm
Like
not
I just
accepting it, but this
we're
is
on a
reality.
phone right now, and I'm like, how am I supposed to react to you? Like you guys told me it wasn't.
Right. Right. That's a very tough thing to have happen at the age of 30. And like breast exams, ladies, and gentlemen, because you all can get it too. Like, make sure that you are examining your breasts regularly. And if you are of age to go and get your mammogram, please go get your mammogram, do your screenings, do your tests, take care of yourself. And even when you are diligent, unfortunately, like Jenna was, these things can happen. What stage are you in now? Are you in remission, or
Yeah,
how are you? Okay.
yeah, I'm totally out of remission. I had triple negative, which is a hormone negative. It tends to happen to younger women and a lot of Black women, actually.
Okay.
And it tends to be very aggressive. But what happens is that, assuming you make it through your treatment okay and you get out, like, I think it's like 5 years, you're
Mhm.
considered like out of it after 5 years. So now I go once a year to see oncologists for longer term treatment, just
Mhm.
checking in. But I don't, because it was negative, the positive of that, besides having to be like rare, shitty, aggressive cancer at 30, is that I don't have to like be on any of the hormone meds that the other ones tend to have, which have their own side effects. So
Mhm.
it's been long enough. I can be appreciative of like that fact of it.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're healthy, and that you got through that. One of the things that I was thinking when you were talking about how you all had this plan and you were only supposed to be like out of work for 3 months is I've kind of been tussling with this feeling myself, and of course I'm not having any health issues, but the idea of just being still for me is hard, because I'm so used to ripping and running and speaking and traveling. And I don't have my next traveling gig until the end of August. And I've just been in my house like, girl, what? Like, but I truly believe there's a reason that I'm supposed to be still right now. Even though it feels like it is going to drive me insane, literally, there is a reason why I'm supposed to be still for the month of July and August. And there was a reason that you needed to be still for that time, to take care of yourself, to get closer to family, to build that community that you all had planned for yourself when you moved to New Orleans. And now, are you in New Orleans? Where are you?
I am actually in Western Massachusetts.
Girl,
So
you love to move.
we lived in New Orleans for 6 years, and
Okay.
then COVID happened,
Uh-huh.
and COVID was very, very bad in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And it was also very early there because Mardi Gras happened right around when COVID was popping off, so
Oh,
it really got going in New
right.
Orleans.
Oh,
And it was a scary place to live as a parent. So when COVID started, and again, this was like early. A lot of places did not really have COVID at this time, and we're still like, oh, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
It was early March. So we went into lockdown, I think it was like the second week of March because my daughter turned 1. And then the next week, like lockdown started, and we thought like 2 weeks. That's how long global pandemics last. So we had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. We were both working full time, which obviously like took a lot of adjusting. And then
Yeah.
one of the things that like hurt really, really bad, and parents we went through so much during COVID, but like one of the really like the beginning of that like heartbreak upon heartbreak of how parents are treated during COVID was the fact that we were in Louisiana, and Louisiana is one of the poorest states. It has like, you look at a list of like 1 to 50, Louisiana and Alabama, Mississippi are at the bottom of almost every list. Like they don't have a lot of resources,
Mm-hmm.
amazing people, um, but it's tough there. And so we had this health crisis going on, and we
Mm-hmm.
had right next door to us Texas, which has some of the best hospitals in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas and Florida were being very vocal about how they were going to stop people from Louisiana from entering their states. Um, and that was just devastating to be like,
Yeah.
like these people like in Louisiana, like they're dying. Like people were dying. And it was just
Mm-hmm.
like, and you have all this resources, you have amazing like healthcare, and like instead of, the trying to help people and save lives, like the opposite was they were like, we're going to shut you out and leave you. And as a parent at that point, kids weren't getting COVID. um and I wasn't worried so much about like, I mean, obviously that was something I was scared of, but like I wasn't as worried like, oh, my kids are going to get COVID, because that really hadn't mutated to that point yet. But my concern is I'd had emergencies with my kids. Like I'd had my toddler break his arm. I'd had like some trips, like things go wrong with like kids, like they do. And my fear was that they were using the children's hospital as an overflow, and they were taking doctors from the children's hospital to help with the emergencies going on if there were other hospitals, which absolutely they should have done. But the scary thing to me as a parent was I was like, am I putting my kids at unnecessary risk if there's an
Yeah.
emergency and I take them to the hospital and there's no doctors, there's no beds, there's no one to take care of them, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't even like drive several hours to Texas to get that. So that was really scary to me in addition to all the COVID stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided, and we also like, this is in March, it's getting hotter and hotter. Like by the time it's May, it's pretty sizzling down there, and you can go indoors anywhere. They knew enough about, like, we still didn't know exactly how COVID was like spreading, but we knew enough that like you weren't going indoors. So like it was hot as hell outside. You couldn't
Mm-hmm.
go anywhere. It was so isolating. And so we were like, you know what, like let's go up to Vermont, which had like no COVID, and is lovely in the summer. And we're like, let's go spend a few months up there. So we sold our house,
Okay.
and we put everything in storage because we were like, we're gonna come back in 6 months was the plan. We packed
You
up
always
our
have a plan for
Yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly. So we packed up 2 cars with 2 kids, 2 dogs. Also, like
Mm-hmm.
staying places. We stayed at like Airbnbs because it was too scary to stay at like a hotel or something during COVID.
Correct.
We stayed at some really interesting ones. Uh, Made it up in 2 days. Got to Vermont, quarantined with my parents. Had the weird experience of going somewhere that like, hospitals are overflowing, people are dying, to somewhere that is like COVID? Like, what's COVID? Like, I mean, they'd heard about it, and obviously, but it was like very like detached because it just wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Got like the nasal swab, like to get out of quarantine, that like when they were doing it up to your like brain, it felt like. And then we all learned that global pandemics last quite a while as time went on. We had some pretty like tough life changes happen during that time, like a lot of people. My husband also left his job to be able to make this happen. Like a lot of people were like, how did you do COVID with young kids? Because we all had to figure it out. Because like I said, like it
Yeah.
started with people being like, you can't come to our states because of and have access to our hospitals, to parents were left behind almost throughout all of COVID. And then teachers were forced back in the classrooms at risk. Like kids didn't
Yeah.
have vaccines, and they're like, let's get back to the office. Like it was brutal seeing how the value of parents in this country through COVID, and current administration included.
Mm-hmm.
So he quit his job to help because we had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old with very limited options there. And I stayed working because I had a remote job at the time. I've been remote now for 8 years. Love it.
Right.
And I kept working through that, and we, it was surviving, not thriving for everyone. And we had things change in New Orleans with our family down there. And we were living with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow, I haven't been near my parents for, it was like 14 years. Like I was a plane ride away during all those times, or multiple plane
Yeah.
rides usually.
Yeah.
And we decided, all right, we were spoiled with choice, and also it was overwhelming in the sense that like we could live anywhere when we
Mm-hmm.
realized we were going back to New Orleans, but also where should we live?
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up deciding to make a 5-year plan.
Okay. We got another
Like,
plan.
I've told people that when they're overwhelmed with like trying to figure out like living situations, it's like, can you make a 5-year plan? Maybe it's 3 years, but like whatever it is, like pick a number of years that you're okay with. Like, I'm going to go do this and have something permanent for a while, but I know that like I'm going to reevaluate. Because when we moved to New Orleans, our plan was to live there forever. So it was
Right.
very disorienting to be like, that's not where we're going to live forever. We've planned for nothing else. Where do we live? So we made a 5-year plan, ended up very randomly in like Western Massachusetts, a town we'd never even visited until like we went there for a week. And it's actually been an amazing fit. Like, it'll be 4 years this October, and we have no intentions of leaving anytime soon. And sometimes life is very hard and there's a lot of curveballs, but like you said about you're meant to be, like things like very serendipitously came together for us to find this town, move here, be able to find a house. And it just felt like, okay, things were very, very hard. And like the universe like threw us a bone and like helped us with what like get to where we needed to be at this time.
Yeah, it did. That's awesome. So now you're in your town, you have your family there, you're working, and then you decide last week that you quit. So
Well, before
where
that, I had the pivot actually. So like,
okay, so we got another pivot, y'all. Buckle up. All right,
yeah.
let's
So
talk about
I've been in advertising for like 15 years at this point, and I'd always said I would do it until it wasn't fun anymore, because advertising, the jobs that I worked at, the agency jobs, like they don't pay that great, quite
it. Okay.
honestly, compared to like if you're working like a corporate job or something like that. So like, and you're also working crazy hours. There's a ton of stress. So if you're not doing it because it's fun, like
Mhm.
you probably maybe want to go see a psychologist. Like it is very much like this is something that you do because you get a rush out of it, you enjoy it, you have fun, like you're inspired by it, whatever. So that was mine. Like once this stops being fun, I'm gonna do something else. I don't know what, but I'm gonna do something else. So when I came up for air, when we had been, juggling and struggling through so much of COVID, and we landed in this house, and we had stability and things settled, so it wasn't a constant like keeping all the balls in the air for like everyone in the family. And I
Mhm.
had some time to just like focus on, because I also like I had a 1-year-old going into COVID, so I was coming off of like pregnancy, breastfeeding, all that stuff, like no autonomy. So
Yeah.
I once I had space to like really pause and focus on like what I was doing, I realized like I wasn't having fun. I wasn't growing in the ways that I wanted to grow anymore. And I didn't really feel excited about doing advertising. It was starting to feel very overly transactional to me.
Mhm.
I think COVID also, and being a parent, had the like deeper impact of wanting to be more connected to things, wanting to like be able to own and make things, wanting to have more positive or at least neutral impact on
Mhm.
things than trying to convince people to buy things. So I had a coach in my work, which I think was like very helpful in helping me kind of get to where uh, I got to with figuring out what I wanted to do. I read this book that I really recommend to women. It's called Playing Big by
Mhm.
Tara Moore. Um, and it's really good about pushing you out of your comfort zone to really explore what drives you, what like why you're not taking risks, what's holding you back, and like getting all these like kind of mental cages we build against ourselves taking risks and doing things, and going for it. So that was really helpful. And then I took this like online quiz thing that my coach would recommend. It's another one I recommend people. It's biacharacter.org.
Okay.
And it's free. It's a strength finder, but it's actually a misnomer because it's not the strength finder piece of it. It's the fact that it looks at not just what you're good at, which I feel like a lot of us, especially again, women, we default into like, what are we good at? Value us because we're good at this, not because it makes us happy. It really focuses on what drives you, what gives you energy. And that was like a totally different way of looking at things. And when I looked at like the top 5 results of that, they were about, 2 of them were about like learning basically. And I was like, that's why I'm so unhappy in my current job. I'm not learning anymore. And then I started looking back at like all the shifts that I'd made in my career and how they always kind of dumped me into the deep end of learning something totally new. And I was like, wow, I have a statistics streak. Also, that apparently is something I love, going in and having no idea what I'm doing and having to figure it out. So at least I can recognize I'm doing it to myself. But I also, so I realized I wanted to do something different. I also didn't want to start over. I didn't want to go back to school and have to like pay for a new career.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I was a mom too. And like, I
It
just,
was pretty expensive though.
yeah, exactly. Like school's not getting cheaper.
It wasn't a community college. It was pretty
Yeah.
expensive.
But even like, just like any certification, it's like, it's, when you have a family, it's like, yes, investing in yourself is a great thing to do, but you have to like, you're always like, well, should I spend my money on that? Is that going to open it? Because I had the experience of going to Dartmouth and I still had to work my way up from
Yeah.
receptionist jobs to get somewhere. So I also knew like, yeah, that might open a door. It might not. So I somehow came across product management. I don't even know how, but I started looking into it and I was like, wow, like this is a really great match for the experience I have and the skill development I've done. But you get to make things and you're constantly learning things. Like the whole nature of the job is constantly questioning things and learning things and changing your point of view. And that was like, that will feed those 2 areas of learning that I'm not feeding right now. And I also looked at it and it's like, has like a much better salary range than advertising. It's like the starting jobs start usually, it's kind of gone down a little bit recently, but like 6 figures is like starting. And I was just like, and like entry level starting. And I was just like, okay, like that seems like a pretty good way to pivot. And because I was the breadwinner, my husband still like was taking care of the kids. I, had kids, had a household mortgage. So I was like, all right, so I pivot. I can open this new career potentially and also like still have access to a salary that like is not like gonna have us have to make some big life changes. But the thing with it was that everything you read or hear about product management is how it's impossible to get into. They're like, you have to go get an MBA. You have to go get a job at a company and then convince them to let you do that work and then convince them to get that work. And then, or you like, you can't get it. And I even had people tell me this. But I was just like, you know what? I'm going to give myself 6 months. I'm going to give myself 6 months to not take a step down, to apply for like what would be like a more of a lateral position, to fit my experience. And like the worst that happens, I don't get the job. Like I was still working. So I was like, you know what? Like I know these other options exist. I'm not going to do the woman thing where I say, oh, I don't have the credentials. I need someone else to say I'm qualified for this. Like I can't apply for this. I was like, I'm just gonna apply. I'm gonna pretend I'm a man and apply. And I mostly got ignored for sure. Like I think every bot that reviewed my resume, they don't know how to translate experience. If you don't have the exact experience, they're not looking at it like, oh, you have all these skills. You have way more experience and skills than most people going for this job, actually. So it took some networking. One of the things I will tell people is I also feel like people get really nervous or insecure about reaching out to people you've worked with before. And I think that like one of the things to remember is like people feel good about helping people.
They
like
do.
like if you would help someone that you're reaching out to, if they reach out to you, go for it. I had everybody get back to me that I reached out to. It was really wonderful because I also got to reconnect after COVID all going on, and I got to have a lot of nice conversations with people, and a lot of them weren't necessarily like connecting to what I needed to do, But it was nice to reconnect and have those from previous jobs. And then I had two that did connect me with people where I did informational interviews, because also when you're trying to job pivot, like that is key. Is being like, can we have a coffee talk? Can
Yeah.
we chat? Like, can I show you that like I know something without you feeling pressured? And I had a coffee chat with the right person who was able to see the value of my experience, even if I didn't have the exact set of resume bullets that they look for.
Mhm.
And he like, next thing I knew, I was interviewing with three different people on the same day. And
Yeah.
then it went from there. And the best thing about that is that he was one of the best. He's not there anymore, but he was one of the best bosses I've ever had. And I've had a lot of bosses in my career, but because he did that, he saw, like, we clicked. Like, he saw my value and skills and was
Mhm.
able to like help support me in navigating this new, because I'd never worked outside an agency. I'd never worked in ed tech other than that like brief stint many years ago. I'd
Mhm.
never been a product manager. I'd never worked with a product manager. It was a huge learning cliff to like come up. But I had a really awesome, supportive, amazing manager who saw me.
Mhm.
And then I also had to remind myself a few different times that I chose the hard path because I didn't want to take the salary cut. And that meant that like it was going to be really stressful and overwhelming for a while until I figured it out. But I also like this saying of like, trust your future self,
Yeah.
which I think is like we talked about, I had so many unexpected twists and turns through my career and life choices. And like I still made it through them. And like if I planned for them, I probably would have no idea what to do. But I hit them and I adjusted, I adapted, I grew. And like so going through this, I had that confidence to be like, you know what? Yes, this is scary. Yes, this is overwhelming. Yes, it feels like I can't do this, but you know what? I know I can, because like
Mhm.
look back, like I just got to take it a day at a time and like trust that like I can get through this and it's going to be okay. And it was.
It was okay. All right. So it sounds like you end up in a new career that is feeding you and your need to continue to learn. You're really enjoying yourself. And then you quit.
Yes. Yes.
Why, Jenna? Why?
So the job that I had, I learned a lot and I worked with a lot of amazing people. I also, like I said, I'd never worked on the company side before. I'd only worked in ad agencies, and it is a very different structure, corporate America versus
Yes.
like a scrappy agency. So one of the things I learned about like through this is because it was like 800 person global company owned by private equity, um, was that I sorry, my last job also before I pivoted, I was a managing director and I
Mhm.
was like leading operations over our whole agency. Everyone reported into me, and I realized that didn't feed me. So when I went into this corporate job, I was like, you know, one of the things about product management that was exciting to me is that you can just be an independent contributor and have a great career track. You don't have to like climb the ladder.
Mhm.
Because I climbed it and I didn't like what was up there. So
You got to
I
take a lot of people when you.
Yeah, apparently that's a big thing with us elder millennials is that we climb ladder and we're like, wait, this is what we were doing? Why?
Want to manage
Um,
people.
yeah, I also find as like a parent with young children that there was a lot of crossover between managing people and things having the same conversations with my children that I did not love.
Yeah.
Um, so I with a corporate product job, I think it can be less of a good fit for someone that just wants to go make cool stuff with a good team, because
Mhm.
there's just a lot of overhead with meetings and politics and just the way the sausage gets made that I just wasn't like gonna feed or serve anything that I was trying to do. And there was a lot of ed tech's a little bit of a crazy space right now because it went from this huge boom during COVID to now
Mhm.
it's like right sizing, but there's no before COVID for it to right size to. Like
Right.
everyone has now used ed tech, which is a good thing for schools, but now they're figuring out what do we need? How much do we
Mhm.
need?
Mhm.
Um, ESSER funds are non-existent basically now, and you know the Department of Education is doing all sorts of wily
Doesn't
stuff.
even exist this week. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's just a ton of change going on in ed tech, especially in a bigger company that has been around longer. Like you can have more confidence they're going to weather it, but it's also like there's just a lot of things they're doing to try to manage that when you are like down here makes it really hard for you to just focus on your day to day and do the job that you're enjoying doing. So I went through quite a bit of change there. I had 4 managers in the last year, which also, if you're showing up and you're like, I've had 4 managers in the last year, you're probably looking for another job. Like that's not like the stability that usually makes someone feel like this is good. Things are going in a good direction. So I started to just feel like I was also trying to create a role for myself in AI. And it just wasn't clicking with just like where my org was and all the kind of stuff they were dealing with versus
Mhm.
like what the opportunity I saw there. And so I kind of reached the point where I was like, you know what, it's not the right fit right now. Like
Right.
I'm not the right fit. They're not like that. The role I'm in isn't the right fit. I don't see that changing anytime soon. But when I came about like looking for another job and thinking about it, I was just like exhausted. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to network again. I'm going to have to do presentations because that's, you totally have to do this in product management. And I
Mhm.
just was like thinking about all the stuff I would have to do on top of working, on top of being a parent. And I was just exhausted. And then I was just like, I'd been thinking about taking a break, but I'd had it in my head that I had to like work for a lot more years so that I could keep my new role because I love being a product manager and then I wasn't ready. I didn't have enough experience. And I was just like, you know what if I get out of this narrative in my head and stop
Mhm.
telling myself that I don't have enough experience? I've worked for 10 years straight from the last break. I've had a lot of like great experience I've gotten there. I've had some important roles. I've had this job for a while now and done a lot of like good work here. I was like, what if I do trust myself that I
Mhm.
have enough experience that I can navigate this? And if I take that break now, and I was just like filled with relief at the thought. And I was just like, when you have that like full body reaction of just like relief, you're like, that's the
Yeah.
right choice. Like
Mhm.
there's no second guessing. So my husband fortunately was ready to also make the shift back. Like he was ready to not be the primary parent.
Yeah.
So uh, after like 5 years, so he went back to work. He was able to find a remote job as a lawyer,
Mhm.
and I gave my notice. And like I said, like Thursday was my last day, so I have the rest of the summer with my kids before school starts. And it's definitely, especially like talking to this audience, like I feel like kind of like a little bit of like an asshole because I'm like, yes, I quit my job that I had, like was like like actually was not stable at all. There was different things happening, but I had a job and I left it and I am taking my break. But I also think that like sometimes we need to listen to ourselves when it's time to recharge and time to explore. And when I had to weigh the two things of like staying with my current job, where I was also struggling with promotion and that kind of thing again, which,
Mhm.
like I said, like you learn how to tell if you're like valued by a company. I was definitely
Mhm.
valued by a lot of people there, but as a
Right.
company, like that wasn't really happening. And I was like, or I have this opportunity to take time off where I can really connect with my kids. I can explore like my creative side more, which I've had like very little space to do in the last several years. And I was like, and I'm really passionate and interested in continuing to work in AI. And without any meetings to go to, restrictions, like day job requirements, it's like there's a lot that I can learn and play and upskill there during that time too. So I'm very excited. And I think one of the things that served me from the last two going so off the rails from what I planned,
Mhm.
um, I'm very flexible in my mindset of what this is going to be. Like I have things like themes of like the creativity, my kids, AI, connecting with people in my community, but I don't
Mhm.
have a like, this is where I'm getting to. Like when I was going to New Orleans, it's like, I'm going to go work at an ad agency. This is what I'm going to do. We're going to live there and this is what our life is going to look like. I'm starting off on a journey and I am going to be flexible. I have ideas with where I think it might take me. I still love being a product manager. I'm going to be open though to where it takes me and what happens and be flexible. Like I want to be my great aunt used to say, like, be like the willow, like not like the oak. I'm gonna be like the willow tree. Like I want to flow, I want to bend, I want to see where this takes me versus miss out on where it could take me because I have such a rigid idea of what it should take me.
That's beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, be the willow. Jenna is dropping some gems here and has provided us with so much. Her story is one that has tons of pivots and moments to pause. And I say that although it may be unexpected when it happens, or it may be something that you plan for, enjoy the pause. And sometimes you just need to hit pause before you can hit play again. Jenna, last question. Please fill in the blank for me. The most unexpectedly joyful part of being hilariously unemployed now is?
Um, just getting to enjoy each day, like not having a plan. And sometimes it's disruptive. I have kids. Like it is like I spent a lot of this morning running around because I forgot things to bring to soccer camp. But having the space to be able to just like walk outside and not have somewhere I have to be, a project that I need to finish, counting down the minutes because I know what this is my time. And once my time is over, I'm back at work like that. The space that I have mentally right now is just like a really beautiful thing that I'm so appreciative of.
Beauty in the space, y'all. Jenna, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and tell your story to myself and my audience. Is there anywhere you would like them to connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm more of like a follow than an ad because I try to like keep it with people, add people that I would actually like recommend, etc. But like you can follow on LinkedIn, and I'm also going to be sharing out some Substack stuff around AI there too, if you are nerdy interested. Also, if you're intimidated, because I really want to help, especially women, learn more about
Yeah.
AI so that it's not one more thing in our way.
Awesome. All right, y'all. I want to thank you again for joining me for another episode of The Hilariously Unemployed. I've been your host and your favorite opportunity seeker always, Dana Duckworth, aka The Big Speaker, signing off. See you next time. Bye.